Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the view groups. So in the previous lecture we have already discussed related to views, view groups, activity, fragments. And in this session we are going to cover the practical scenario of how we use these view groups and views in a combined manner. So let us start with the coding section. Let's start with the XML versions, and in that we are using UTF-8 format. So I just use it inside the XML version, and let me start with the linear layout. This is an view group. It can have the ability to hold more than more number of views in it. So here we have to specify the namespace. The XML namespace will be schemas.android.com/apk/res/android. So I have to select it. So now after selecting this, I have to specify its layout, height and width. These two are the necessary parameters. So I just specify the height. Also I have to specify its width attribute too. So here the width is set to be match parent. So if you set match parent, look at this change in the preview bar. Here before I type match parent, this line is displayed here. This dark line is displayed in the preview, is in the left side of the page. And after I specify it as match parent, look at this line enlarged to the size of the screen. Now to demo this particular concept, I'm using 4 buttons. So in all views, both layout width and layout height are necessary parameters, and we may specify match parent or wrap content. If you specify the width to be match parent and the height to be match parent, look at this button will fill all this view group area. So we must not specify match parent in all those cases, and we have to specify the size of the button to be appeared, or we just specify it as wrap content. So here I am specifying both height and width parameter to be wrap content. So other than that, we have to specify an ID. Each component in a view group must have an ID. So I just use add plus ID slash, here it is button, so I am naming it as B1. After that, we have designed a button, but the text to be appeared on the button should be specified. So here I am using text as button 1. Here in the preview screen, you may not be able to see this button in a clear manner. So I just increase the size of this button using Android : text size. I just specify the text size to be 20 dp. So now the button is visible now. So I just complete the first button. If we are specifying a slash at the end of this tag, it is a self-closing tag. If you are writing something inside this view, you have to explicitly complete this button as less than slash button. So both procedures are normal. So we may adhere any one of the procedure. So here I am going to use only buttons. So I just copy this code and place it here for button 2, and now I have 4 buttons. 4 buttons have same ID, so it shows some conflict there. If you look at this code, you may see that some red lines are there. So I have to remove this red line by changing the button names V2, V3 and then V4. On saving this content, it will look like this, but the text appeared on the button is still not at all changed. So I just change this to button 1, button 2, 3 and 4. Now we have to complete this linear layout. So I have created a view group, and here we have a lot of view groups, and one among them is linear layout. I am just demonstrate it with the help of buttons. So right now these buttons are arranged in a horizontal order, so one after the another. So suppose if I like to show this button in the one below the other, so then I have to use the property to be orientation. If I specify the orientation to be vertical, then these buttons will appear one after the other. Also, we don't have to specify wrap content at all the times. If we know the exact size of the button, we may specify it. Just now I would like to convert this height to 100 display pixels dp. So this button get enlarged. Again I am using the same measure in all those buttons. So 100 dp. Again this height to be 100 to. We don't have to specify it in the layout height itself. We may specify it in layout width also. So here we have 4 buttons. 4 buttons are in equal height. So we may align this button with the help of layout gravity attribute. So right now I don't specify the layout gravity. I will demonstrate it in another view group. Okay, let us convert this linear layout to some other layouts. So I just change it to relative layout. So when I am doing this, if you see the result, you may observe that one button is placed over the other. So we have to arrange it. So how to arrange this button? Now let us change some attributes. So I have button 1 here, and I would like to arrange the button 2 below the button 1. So I just use the attribute layout underscore below of the ID. So button 1 is having the ID of B1. So right now the button 2 appears below the button 1. Similarly, I have to arrange the button 3 below the button 2. So I just copy the code and place it over here. So here I am specifying it to below B2. So I have button 3 here. So the button 3 is visible now, and below the button 3 I have to arrange the button 4. Sorry, button 3. So now it is in order. So like that we are able to arrange with the help of relative layouts. So similarly we may arrange it. If I like to place the button 3 after the button 2 in its right side, I have to specify an attribute layout underscore to right of. So here I would like to place it near B2. Okay, so it must appear below B1. So here how we used to arrange these values with the help of relative layouts. So relative layout is a little bit tricky, that we have to observe all those things that are present in the screen, so that it will help us in arranging all those components. So I forget to remove this code. This orientation attribute is not in relative layout. It belongs to linear layout. Okay. Right now, I would like to convert this relative layout to an absolute layout. Okay, so absolute layout is deprecated. If you see that absolute layout, it is getting striked. So this layout is not in use right now. So I just remove the code that belongs to the relative layout. Okay, it's time to place the code related to the absolute layout. So with the absolute layout, we have to specify the exact position of where the particular component or the particular view is going to get placed. So for that, we have two attributes. One is layout underscore x and another one is layout underscore y. Here in the x direction, I am moving towards nearly 20 pixels. So the button 1 slightly moves to the right, and now have to specify the layout y. So y parameter to be 10 display pixel. So this is the starting point. Likewise, we have to do the same procedure in all those buttons. Okay, now all the buttons are in a single place. Its layout x is 20 dp and layout y is 10 dp. Now it's time to move these buttons to some other places. I just keep the x axis same, and I would like to increase the size of the y axis. Now I just increase it to 40 dp. It just move that button to some other extent, so I just increase it to 50 dp. Again in button 3 also I just increase it to 90 dp, and in button 4 mark it as 130 dp. So I forget that. So this is how the views are displayed using absolute layout. So we have to specify the exact location of the component. So now let us move on to the frame layout. Frame layout is similar to the relative layout. So somewhat similar to the relative layout. So all the frames are displayed one after the other. That is, everything is placed in an order. So I just remove a button. Now we have only 3 buttons. And now the attribute to be added to the code is layout gravity. So in the layout gravity, I just specify one button to be on the left side, leftmost corner. So I have to specify the top also in the left, and then I just move the second button to the center, so it appears in the center. And after that, I'm going to place the third button on the bottom. So here we are placing that in the bottom. I would like to place this third button in the bottom right corner. So I have to add another code right. So this is how a frame layout is processing its data. Okay, it's time to demonstrate the table layout. So with table layout, we just convert the table frame layout to table layout. That's it. So with the table layout, we have to specify number of rows and a number of columns. So let's start with the table row. So inside table row 1, I am placing a single button. So in this demonstration, I will place only a single button in all those rows. We may use any number of views inside the table row. Based on the projects, we may change the styles and other things. So here I have 3 buttons. Each button is placed inside a table row. So in table layout, we are using table row, and each table row can hold only one button. So this is how the table layout works. If you like to add 2 buttons in a row, you just copy this code and place it underneath. So I just change the ID to be 4 and button 4. So here we have a frame with the 2 buttons. So likewise, we may increase the number of views in the table row. Okay, let me increase the size of these heights. Let me increase the size of each view. So in the first button, I have specified the size to be 300 dp, and in the second button, I specify the same value, 300 dp, and for the third button also, I just specify the size to be 300 dp. So here we have a view. So in this place, we are able to view only button 1 and 2, and button 3 and 4 are not visible in the particular region. So when you scroll your mobile phone, it will look like that. So we have to provision it with the scroll bars. So for this purpose, we have to add a scroll view. Scroll view is also having its own height, width, and its namespace. So this scroll view to be placed at the end. If you look at this preview, you are able to scroll it. In the previous time, we are not able to scroll this preview pen. Now it's able to scroll it. So these are the view groups that are available in Android. Not only this, other than that, we have plenty of view groups, and I have demonstrated a few of them. Thank you.